Well, we're going to try this a second time. So this is Wednesday's devotion, take 2. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming in, dropping in. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Happy Wednesday. It's a good day, a little cool day. I don't mind it at all. Here in Carterville, Illinois, it was, I don't know, maybe 49, 50 degrees this morning when I got up. But Wednesday's here. We get through today. We're on the other side of the week, and so that's a good thing. And my name is Wes Henson. I'm the interim pastor at the First Baptist Church of Cutler. And as before we begin our devotion for this morning, I want to take a sip of my coffee and share with you for just a moment and invite you to visit this week's podcast summary of Sunday's Adult Bible Study. The link is in the description or in the show notes, depending on what platform you are watching this on. And if you click on that link, it'll bring you up to a page, and you'll get I think it's a 15, 17-minute summary of this week's Bible study at First Baptist Church of Cutler. So after you watch the podcast or watch the video, there's some resources there you can study with. I want to invite you then to the adult Bible study at First Baptist Church of Cutler this Sunday morning at 9:45. And then worship at Cutler First Baptist Church begins at 10:30 on Sunday morning. All right, today's devotion. Today's devotion is titled Facing Consequences, and it's quite a foreboding title, I think. But let's unpack it and let's see what it has to say for us today, what we can take with us on this Wednesday morning, if that's when you're watching this. So the Bible tells us very clearly that God is eager and desiring to forgive us of all of our sins. No doubt about it. However, the consequences of our sins, oftentimes, or all the time, is ours to face. And so in Genesis chapter 4, verses 10 through 12, and that's part of our focus in our Sunday morning Bible study, Cain experienced God's grace and the forgiveness of his sin. Now, as you recall the account, Cain and Abel both brought offerings to the Lord as an act of worship. Abel's offering was accepted, but Cain's was not. And the Lord explained to Cain what was wrong with his offering and how he could make it better, if you will. And Cain, instead of following and submitting in obedience to the Lord, he got angry, and his anger boiled up to the point where he killed his brother Abel. And so that was the sin that he had committed. But God had forgiven him of his sin by God's grace. Yet Cain had to face the consequences of his sin by being a wanderer for the rest of his life. He was no longer a tiller of the ground. And in fact, the Lord said anything that he would grow would not come to harvest. So as we reflect for just a few moments on our own sins and God's forgiveness of them, we may know that God has forgiven us of our sin, but there may be residual effects from that sin or consequences of that sin. Let me give you an example. The Bible is very clear that gluttony is a sin. And the Lord may forgive us of our overindulgence, of our gluttony, but there are consequences to gluttony. For example, high blood pressure, diabetes, all may be consequences resulting from the sin of gluttony. These consequences don't leave even when forgiveness is granted, right? We still have to face the effects of it all. But hold on just a moment, because I want you to know that the loving grace of God extends to each one of us to help us to get through the consequences that we have to face. Now, Cain responded to the Lord's pronouncement by complaining that it would be too much for him. The consequences would be too much for him. But the Lord goes on to give Cain assurance that the Lord would be with him and that he would be protected. And so even as we face the consequences of our sins, we can know that the Lord extends grace to help us through them. Okay, our verse for today on this Wednesday morning or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, is 1 John 1:9. 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins to him, to the Lord is faithful and just to forgive us of all of our sins and to cleanse us from all our unrighteousness. What a great verse. It's a good verse to put to memory. So we must trust God to be with us even as we face the consequences of our sins. Hey, I hope you all have a great Wednesday. I hope the mic is on. I hope you can hear sound from this devotion that I'm posting. And I'll hope to see you again real soon. But bye for now.